Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show, the Sunday supplement, 228. And I was just checking, I think it was last week, 5 years. Me and Brent Peters have been doing this 5 long years. How about that, Brent?
Yeah, fantastic idea when we started.
I know, and then everyone's copied us.
Yeah, well, they have. That's exactly right. I mean, no more than that. That platform that I got invited on. That I had trials once. I mean, They're getting all guests in, but we were the first to do all the guests. Through COVID, and then people copied us.
But yeah, listen, 5 years. I just checked because when I joined the club, it was in December 2019, and we started probably just after into the new year, and we've only had probably about 6 or 7 weeks off in that time, and we've managed to deliver a weekly show. So
yeah, it's
not
good.
doing too bad, are we?
I think it's good to say that we're. It's all down to you, Steve. I mean, at the end of the day, you know what you're doing. I keep saying it. I mean, I had to laugh the other day when a certain football club not far from us, which is, which I have the utmost respect for in Chadderton. They're a good football. They were tweeting as though they'd praising their media guy up, turning around and said the best in the business and all that. Well, I'm all for people bullying people up, but let's have it right. You're the best in the business. I'm telling you, I've worked with you. I know what you're about, and you are the best in the business. Yeah. Let's get it right.
We don't go around shouting it, Brent, do we? We just go along, just do our thing.
And we just get on with it.
There's a lot of good media out there in the northwest counties and the non-league scene, isn't there now? And they're all coming through. All the young kids, and they're doing different initiatives and starting different things. But yeah, it's great for the game.
Well, it is, yeah. It's good, but I'm not going to blow my trumpet here though. But with my background and my history and things I've been through, and I've always got a tale to tell.
Talk forever.
I think the thing is that what makes a good show. Like I said, you're best in the business, but what you've got, it's a bit like having Ant and Dec. If you took one of them away, it might not be the same show.
Exactly. I remember what Peter Smith once said. He was Peter Smith, our friend from Sky Sports. He brought some students, didn't he, to the Bolton Wanderers ground for the was it the final against AFC Fylde, and they were interviewing you after the game.
Yeah.
And he said, you'll never have an easier interview than with Brent Peters, because you're asking one question and that's it. He's done for 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, well, it is what it is, but listen, that comes down to experience. I've been like I said, I've been around the game. I've been in the game for over 40 years. I mean, I'm blessed to with the people I've worked with. I had to start somewhere, and I'm a big believer allowing, me giving without the people that kind of put me, on the straight and narrow. And I keep talking about this, the likes of Brian Flynn, Frank Casper, Martin Dobson, Ray Pointer,
giving you those opportunities.
They gave me those opportunities, and and I've grasped them. I've learned off them, and the late Walter Joyce, people like that. It's I've been blessed with that, and I'm in a situation now where I try to do the same. I won't suffer fools, but somebody talked to me the other day and said that somebody made an inquiry. It must have been, well, it were our historian. We're talking to somebody. I'm not going to mention no names, and said that he'd shown an interest at some point in trying to help out or get involved at Bay Cup and things like that. And there's always two sides to a story. I look at people before I don't do knee-jerk situations. No. I kind of, and it's the same with my business with my drivers. People can be ringing me up about driving positions, and I don't know, or I do know something about them. And if there's something I don't like, I don't take them on. And going back to what I was saying is, I've seen it so many times in football. The people that are, out there that are snakes, they'll stab you in the back as soon as look at you. That's what they do. And I don't like, stuff like that. And it's not about because they can't move me because I am the club. So they can't dislodge me. But it's when they try to dislodge, like, I can remember we were going through a bad spell. And my coaches, I'm not stupid. I know how well my coaches are working. And if my coaches aren't working well, I'll be the first one to say to them in a one-to-one, face-to-face, I don't like that.
Yeah.
You should be doing this, or you should be doing that, or I don't agree with this, or I don't agree with that. We talk. But one thing I won't have, one thing I will do is I will back them to the hilt. And, in a football season, you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. We'd all like to be consistent from start to the end, but it doesn't work that way. And the thing is, you see the true colours of people, not only coaches, but you see the true colour of players. If you're doing well, nobody says a thing. Nobody has an opinion because they think they can't have an opinion because you're doing all right. Immediately things are going on, not doing well for whatever reason. It could be injuries, suspensions. You've not got your best teams out for whatever reason. But they start coming out of the woodwork and start saying, no, I wouldn't have done that. I'd do this and he shouldn't pick him and I'd prefer him and I'd do this and he, training's crap and this, that and the other. That's when the knives come out. Well, I won't have them people around. If I find out and I hear it, they're out the door because you can't have that. And this is where I'm coming from. In terms of my coaches, like I said, I got a text message out the blue one time and kind of like trying to get in bed or trying to push my coaches out for them to have an opportunity. And I didn't like it. And don't get me wrong, the person that did it were naive. But that naivety has sent a warning sign to me. I'd have him, if he hadn't done something like he's done, I'd have probably I sat down with him, had a chat with him, and probably there is an opportunity. Well, there is an opportunity at the minute for somebody because somebody's got to take our shadow squad. Yeah. We haven't got the person yet for that. But the point is, I just won't take any Tom, Dick and Harry, and I certainly won't take somebody that's desperate to get in, and by that desperation to get in, trying to push your coaches out the door and saying, you're going through a bit of a bad time. I'll come and help you. Basically, piss them off. Well, look, it doesn't work that way. No. And I won't have stuff like that. And I think, well, if he can do that, he'll do it to other people.
Well, I was going to say, it says a lot about they're giving a lot away without actually saying anything, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why. And that's why I haven't. There's plenty of people I know that would probably, more than tick the boxes to come on board and everything. But are they the right people? Are they going to be in? Are they doing it for the right reasons? Are they going to be in? Are they going to come in? But they're going to be applying for every job out there. And after a month of being in, they've done one. Because I don't want that either. Because you can't have that.
I've seen in the past when you've had people come to the club, you always have them sat in front of you, and I won't say give them the third degree, but you put them through the mill and you tell them what you're all about, what the club's about, and first of all they've got to buy into that before they even consider walking through the door. Yeah,
100%, 100%. And the lads I've got now have all had that situation. They've all had it. They know where they and listen. Nobody can look through a crystal ball. If we don't hit the ground running when we kick off, right? It won't be anything down to the work that my coaches have done, because I know that through summer, all three of them have worked absolutely tirelessly. They've been fantastic. I've watched them. I've overseen the sessions and everything. Yeah. Everything is thorough and attention to detail, and and they keep getting. That's all you can
as well. We've been on the camera in the pre-season, and you get to not as much when I'm doing the commentary. When you do it on the camera, and I try to get there early, and I see the training at the beginning, you can see the likes of Ryan, you've got Alan, and Nigel all putting the lads through a really good build-up. Because one of the issues that you had, Brent, in the past, if you don't mind me saying, you were a bit questioning the preparations, weren't you, in the build-up to some of the games?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, sorry, go on.
And the intensity of those pre-match build-ups.
Yeah, I were. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's important. Your pre-match build-up is massively important, because it's how you do your warm-ups, is how you in the intensity you should be starting the game.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you know, it goes without saying. I've questioned it in the past, and you know, and I'm not knocking people. You know, listen, I've had good people that has worked alongside me. Yeah, we can all have our shortfalls and downfalls, including me. Listen, we're learning all the time. You know, things happen. You're always learning. Something will crop up, but you'll always have this opinion where, and it's the same. It's just a disease throughout. Everybody will have opinions. We've touched on this before on this show, and think, why does he pick him but not him? You know, when he's got so much quality. But it's more than just quality sometimes. It's about the whole package. You know, you could have somebody, in fact, it's funny because I heard the interview last night with the guy who used to be at Southampton, who's gone to Rangers, and he drew yesterday Rangers. And he's done an interview, and he's absolutely putting on, some of these players need to drop their egos. You know, he said, and they're not, he said, I can't have players that's walking around the football pitch just strutting about, no matter what ability they've got. That's bang on, that. That's bang on. Because you can have all the ability in the world, but if you're going to strut around the pitch and not put the hard yards in,
all of a sudden you're carrying 2-3 players. Yeah,
exactly. And but the thing is, right, what would you rather have? Somebody that lacks that little bit of quality, but he'll run through that brick wall for you. Or put somebody in that's big time Charlie, that's got loads of ability and, you know, shows it and can do it, but for, you know, 75 minutes he's strutting about and goes hiding and doesn't get involved.
Give me the first one every time.
Exactly, and this is what I'm saying. You know, we've had this conversation before about coaches. This is what you know, they could be on the sidelines. I'm a bit surprised why you don't, but you know, it's like even now. You know, and I've proved, you know, the back. I'm not going to say I don't try not to throw people under a bus here, but in the past, they're throwing players at me, and one in particular, and I've watched him, and I think, what do they see? You know, they see a guy that can freaking absolutely pick a pass out from 30 yards. Yeah. You know, he's got that in his locker. But then I see it like in other occasions. I see it where most of the time he's hanging onto the ball too long, and then he loses. He loses very, very quickly. He's losing possession, and I think he's losing possession, and he's losing possession in bad areas. And I'm thinking, I'm not buying into him. I don't.
Well, the bits aren't there.
Exactly, and I'm thinking, no, he's not for me. I'm not buying into him. You know, yet they see something different, but that's football, in it. It's not on opinions. It's like another man's thinking, one man's shit is another man's gold. He might be gold somewhere else. I don't know. But does that not what makes the world go around in football, in terms of, you know, Steve McLaren managing Newcastle could turn around and release a player and say, I don't like him, but that player goes to blinking Sam Allardyce at blinking wherever, West Bromwich Albion or whatever, and he likes him. It's just sort of.
Well, while I've got this fresh in my mind, I've got it on my piece of paper this morning. Going into the game on Thursday evening against Elton Vale, I noticed that you played a certain Brady Bowman as a centre forward. Where the hell did that come from? Well, you know, you're talking about players and shapes and seeing things in certain players, Brent. Where did that one come from?
Well, I didn't start him, to be fair, I didn't start him at centre forward. But as the game were unfolding and the way the game were going, let's just talk about what happened and how I look at things in a game sometimes. And for me to do that, you know, other people might think, what? You know, I don't get it. What? But listen, again, this comes down. It's what you learn. Comes down to experience. You look at certain people and certain people's characters, but equally you look at what they've got and their ability, and if they're composed, and you know, the technique and everything. Now, going back to Elton Vale the other night, right? In the first half, when we set off, we picked the team, and the team went out, and all credit to Elton Vale, who I thought they had a good young team, busy, well organised. They were well organised. You could tell that they'd worked with them and got a structure. So they were, you know, the facilities are immaculate at Elton Vale, absolutely immaculate. You know, the pitch is fantastic. You know, the clubhouse.
Did you sign Kieran Trippier's brother from there?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Kelvin. Yeah, a few seasons ago.
Yeah, I thought you did.
Yeah. But everything about you know, the setup and everything is first class. And we set off in the first half, and like I said, you know, they're a good young side, and they were well drilled, well organised. They knew what they were doing. They were playing a kind of an high press. Everything was good about them. But what they were kind of they were busy, you know. And I'll just be straight on here. You know, we couldn't lay, certain players couldn't get near them. Our midfield were linking 3 weeks away from them. They couldn't get near them, and they weren't doing anything special. They were just moving the ball, and they were moving. But our midfield, who played in that first half, just could not get near the men. So we weren't even laying a glove on them, right? And we went in at half time, and we were 1-0 down. Right now, I'm not saying we didn't create chances. We did create chances, and we should have done better with the chances we had. We had some very, very good chances in that first half, and we missed them right in front of goal. I mean, one player in particular, he didn't even hit the target, and he's right, bang. He was kind of probably parallel with the blinking with the post, but like he was in enough where he should have either found a pass, or if he's shooting, he shoots on target, but he shot past the post, right? With other players that got in good areas. I'm not here, you know, I'm not going to name them because I'm not here to push them under a buzz or anything. You know, we're trying to build confidence, but they missed chances. There were chances missed. But equally, you know, when you analyse the first half, they had more chances and more opportunities than we did, which tells you all you need to know, right? If they're having, if our goalkeeper's smoking an Hamlet, we're on top of our jobs, right? If he's not and he's under a bit of pressure, then you know that somewhere along the line it's failing. So it ended up where we're losing the game 1-0. We hadn't turned up. We weren't playing well. We were. You know, we weren't playing well at all, to the point that I didn't say anything at halftime. And I've got to give Nigel at the end of the day, like Alan, like Ryan, they spend time with them on a training pitch. They're trying to work with them on certain aspects of the game. And one thing that we're all of us in sync on is communication. Because communication can get you out of a lot of mess, right? Yeah. And we're all trying to instill that into them, which we don't. Certain players do, but we don't communicate like we should communicate. It's a failure, lets us down. Equally, they're working on the training pitch on technique and movement within team shape. And they're doing that. So there's no point me, even though I'm the manager and players have to set standards. And when they set standards, you know, I could have easily gone in there at halftime and started to lay into them, right? But the person that needed to lay into them and did lay into them was the coach, because he's the one. It's like a blinking boxer ending in a boxing ring. It's a title fight at end of day. Yeah. The coach is in his ear. You shouldn't be saying, you put your guard up. Don't let your guard down. You know, he's telling him, he said, I've told you, you put your guard up, keep your guard up. You get me? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, the coach, so he has to go in I give him the platform. He has to go in and Nigel railroaded him. And I mean railroad. To be honest, I hadn't seen Nigel like that before. That's the first time I've seen him like that.
Good.
And it were good because he needs to be like that. You can't have this blinking, pussyfooting around.
The walk all over you.
Yeah, exactly. And he were good, what he did. It were good. And it weren't just a load of hot air that were coming out. He was constructive in what he was saying. Went to the board, told them, why have you not done this and that? Why have you not done that? And going through situations with him and blinking hammered him. Right. So he got the platform at half time and and that were it. So then they've come out. But then we've made a change at half time. So we've tweaked it a little bit. But we still carried on playing the same shape that we started. We didn't change no shape or anything. So we go out. We go out now. We're still huffing and puffing, in my opinion, in the second half. We were better, but we weren't where we should be.
Not knocking any doors down.
No, we weren't where we should be. And as a manager, you stood on the line, and I think we can play here now until the blinking, as an old saying, we'll play here now until the cows come home, and we ain't going to score.
Yeah,
it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? So then my head goes. So I'm starting to think, who can I put up there? We've tried, and I'm here not throwing people under a bus. Right, so I'm not going to mention names on that side of thing. We've tried so-and-so up there, right? I wasn't happy with that. And I look around the pitch. Now you tried and trusted, obviously. Ollie Hodgson is still on the pitch, so he's not in it. So then you're looking, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, blimey, who is that? I don't see a goal here. I don't see a goal in us, apart from if Ollie does a bit of magic.
Yeah.
And he's capable of doing a bit of magic. Let's get it right. So I'm thinking, but that's one player. So I'm stood on the sideline. I'm thinking, who has got it in the locker?
But you probably look at this stage. You're probably also looking for about 5 or 10% more energy, aren't you, in the final third?
Yeah. So straight away, the one word for me were we'd kind of done and Nigel said to me, and Ryan were on the other side, and they're saying to me, who we're going to put there now? I said, give me 2 minutes. I need to think this out. And there was only one player on that pitch for me. Only one player for me that was capable, right? And people might, first reaction is give over.
Yeah, first reaction for me when I spoke to Deborah, and that was my first reaction. Give over.
Well, it weren't give over because I knew. The player, before I mention his name, Mike, he's composed.
Yeah.
He's got pace.
Yeah.
He's got good technique.
Yeah.
He'll compete for balls in the air.
Yeah.
So, in them 4 attributes straight away, there was only one player for me to go and give it a go. It's a friendly.
Yeah.
Right? It's a friendly. So I'm thinking there's only one player for me to go there, and that's Brady Borman. He's going up there.
And the final one is he knows where the net is.
And, well, he knows where the net is, and it proved it. We were 1-0 down. But to compliment him, which was another important, I can't just give it, even though I'm going to heap a bit of praise here a lot of praise on Brady, I've also got to give praise to the captain, my captain, because he hasn't played. He's been out with COVID. In fact, I were dogging him. He's been out that long. I said, blinking heck, have you had long COVID? Right? But because he's not been around training, he's not been anything, and he's not one to shirk. He's a good, we know what he's like. He's a good lad. He's Michael Gervin. Now, Michael was here, but he wasn't really going to have any minutes. He wasn't due to have any minutes until Saturday.
No.
But he said to me, is there any chance, because he'd obviously weighed the game up, he said, is there any chance I can have 15 minutes, and see how I am? Just get my breathing going and see how I am. And I went, not a problem. So that 15 minutes we introduced Michael into the pitch, who I've said all along, when he's on it, we are on it. So I always said it, right? Because Michael he's your educated player that can. He has frailties, he has issues. We all have issues. There wouldn't be a Bacup Borough if there was the ideal all-round player, but they're not, right? And that's why they're at Bacup. But what he has got, he's got vision, he's got good technique, and he can pick a pass. So at the same time, I introduce we've pushed now Brady up top, who epitomised every one of them technical four things that I've said, right? But equally, we've introduced Michael Gervin. So now all of a sudden, in that midfield,
unlock a door.
That midfield that was what was terrible in the first 45 minutes, right? All of a sudden, we're unlocking a door. We've got an intelligent player in that midfield that finds players who's making space. So between Ollie Hodgson and Brady Boardman, we've now got, even though Brady's unorthodox, but he's got pace, he's got intelligence, he knew where to run, he knew what positions to take.
And if he gets the shot off, it's usually on target.
And if he gets a shot, and that's what he did, he scored 2 fantastic goals, right? And linked up well. But I've got to also give, so Brady, that was a massive, massive plus to me. But people say to me, and I'm hearing it, I heard it on, even the Alan Taylor was away. Ryan Russell's obviously texting him during game, and he's not buying into that. Isn't Alan? But no disrespect to Alan, as he's going older in his experience, he'll probably start having. You've got to be like this as a manager. But I've told you before, managing and coaching is 2 different jobs, right? But we'll not go down that road. It's 2 different jobs. But the fact of the matter is, if you see good players, there's an old adage: a good player, a very good player, can play anywhere, right? Brady comes into that fold. He's a young lad, but he's a very, very, very intelligently good player.
Yeah.
Intelligent, good player. He yesterday we were the only one at the beginning that moaned about the balls, and I dogged him. I said 2 for a tenner.
Yeah.
Meaning I went for the cheap option because obviously, I no disrespect, it's the second string, isn't it? It's the shadow squad. I'm not buying blinking.
Well, I heard the conversation. I only got half of it, but I think he said, "Well, stop complaining. What balls did you used to use at Asland and St Mary's?" And he went, "The cheap ones." Well, there you go then.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. But listen, he's cultured. Brady Boardman is a cultured footballer. Some could turn around and say, is he wasted at centre back, where he played all last season at centre back? But he can play there, and he did an admirable job all last season, right? Some will say he might be wasted. Some will say that's his position, but he can do it, and he proved he can do it. I've told you before, left fullback, not an issue, in his stride.
I just think he's equally effective in all the positions.
He's equally effective, and it's another string, not just to his ball, but our ball. Because if we're looking for a goal, and we're looking for something different. So we've turned the game round from an absolute abysmal, and I'm saying this, abysmal first 45 minutes, where, credit to Elton Vale, right? But it were abysmal. Ball retention. I mean, we took a player off, and again, I'm not going to throw him under a bus or anything and say his name. 10 minutes into game, I'm going to Nigel, get him off. He's giving the ball away every time. Get him off. He comes off. So we did. He had to take him off because I'm telling him to take him off, right? So he took him off. But we put him back on second half, right? And you know what? He were different. He were a different player, different class. But why were he different class? But he's got to start like that. Yeah. You can't really start linking. No. You get. No,
you don't want to be kicking someone up the backside in order to get a reaction from him. You want him to hit the ground running.
Correct. And you know what? To be fair to the lad I'm talking about, and I'm not going to name him because it's not right to name him. But I've got to say his attitude on that situation were exemplary. There were no spitting his dummy out. There was no throwing his freaking shirt on the floor. There was no thinking, bald-headed bastard, fuck off, and stuff like that. He reacted positively. And he didn't know he was going to go back on it second half. But when he goes back on it second half, he was spoken to and said, just improve now on your ball retention. And he did. Brilliant. And he got hold of the baton and ran with it. And he's got to start like that.
Yeah. But those are the players you want, Brent, going through the season. It's a long season, and that's the attitude you need.
100%. Listen. We have some good lads here at the minute. We have to go away with some that might sail a bit. But the same yesterday. I get a text. They must think I'm stupid because I watch trends. Let me tell you a tale. Right, yesterday, I know for a fact that my coach, Ryan Russell, had spoke to this player earlier on in the day, and he knew about the game on Saturday, and everything at that point was okay, right? Now then, where we do things, I send the squad out and they've got a reply back by return. Now, I'll give them a certain length of time to respond back before I bombard them again and again with a message. And then eventually I just give up and we'll change it, right? Now then, when I am getting someone answering a text at almost midnight.
Yeah.
Right? That to me straight away.
They're in a nightclub or in a bar.
Exactly. They're not. They must think I'm freaking absolute stupid. Right? So it's nearly midnight. So exactly. So then the morning after, right? The morning after, I get a text message off the same player. Well, I'm not feeling right well today, Brent, so I'm not available. No, you're not feeling right well because you've probably self-inflicted it because you were out last night. And now, wherever you were, and I have my ideas where you were, right? So he's just absolutely shot his hole full because at the end of the day, I'm not stupid.
He probably did shoot all his hole full.
Yeah, but yeah. We'll try and keep the show clean, Steve. But
Davidson for 2 seconds there.
You get me though. But I'm thinking they must think I'm stupid. Now a younger manager will fall for that, but I ain't falling for it. So the chances are, unless it suits me, he won't be in on Thursday. We have Wednesday. Sorry, we have a game Wednesday. He won't be in. I'll just ignore him. Because he's not pulling stunts like that, and it's a stunt. Now, we could argue, well, I can't help being ill. Well, hang on. Let's have it right. I will. You're not telling me, because if you weren't out on blinking Friday night, right, how come it took you till that time to reply to your text?
Yeah.
Now, if they're cute, if they want to pull stunts and they're cute, this is where I'm saying they're not cute. They don't engage the brain. But if they wanted to pull a stunt, what's the best one? I know what I'd do. If in my younger days, if I were getting new manager who were going to be texting me if I were in the team on a Saturday, right? I think I'm going out tonight. I've been invited.
I'd be getting in there first.
I'd be waiting. Yeah, I'd be waiting. That text message, where's it coming? Oh, it's here now. I'll be replying to it at blinking 8 o'clock, whatever. Yeah. Right? Yeah, Gaffer, I'll be there tomorrow, no problem. And then you'd be out on blinking Razzle if you wanted to be out on Razzle because I've already got the text back.
Yeah.
But replying at blinking midnight tells you everything you need to know. This is how thick they are.
Oh, kidder.
Can't kidder, seriously. Listen, and whilst I'm a manager, right, I have to have set standards and we do it. But what they don't realise, back in the day, Russell Proctor, if he's watching, he'll tell you, right, he played under me. But he played for me. He played for me at Glossop. He played for Rosendale United. So if he's watching, he usually pops up. If he watches, he'll tell you I was one of the lads. I was back in the day, I was, I were one of the lads and we got up to some stunts. So my point, what I'm trying to make is they can't kid the kid because I've been there, seen it, wore the T-shirt.
Well, one person who is watching is our friend Simon Holding. Are you talking about me?
If the cap fits, wear it. Why would I talk about you, Simon? All you're doing is trying to pee.
We won't go there. You were probably on about when you were talking about the 4 aspects that makes up a good centre forward or a good, he probably said, are you talking about me? Well, yeah, we probably are talking about you because I suppose you ticked all them boxes, Simon, in your day.
He did all right. He was a good striker with Simon, to be fair. He was honest. He was honest. If I'm going to talk, listen, I wind him up and he gets a load of stick off me and everything, but he were a good striker, to be fair. He were a striker. I mean, if you played 2 up top, he'd do all the work for the guy who'd put, his partner who'd put the ball in the net. Simon would work hard. Simon was an honest player. He were a good striker. He worked hard. Yeah. He really did. He really did. But going back to Simon, now he's popped up. Listen, I'm not saying. Listen, we said on this show last week. I mean, and I'm being serious when I say this. If you've got chance to stay away from that blinking Royal Blackburn Hospital, right? You can stay away from it, right? If the blinking, God forbid, you're not ill or anything, but if the ambulance comes and wants to take you to that slaughterhouse, tell them to divert, set the sat-nav and go somewhere else. Do not enter that place. I can tell you, listen, I hate it to a passion. I still maintain that half of the shit they were doing there killed me dad. Right? I'm being serious now. Yeah. You talk to people that's had issues there. And you know what? Before Simon went in there, right, I was being serious. He needs to freaking not go in there. I'm surprised he's gone. You know what? There's been issues because it's a training ground. And one of the issues, I'm not going to tell you his personal thing yet, but when I tell you, because this is funny, right, this typifies the bleeding hospital, right? And I'm not going to go and talk anything about personal thing, but if you were watching it on television when they used to have them comedy shows on, like Carry On Doctor and Carry On films.
Carry On Matron.
Oh, this is reminiscent. So he's there on a bed apparently, and he needs to do what do you call them, flush, ball. He's got to have a flush. So this doctor's come in and set it all up. They see a freaking thing what he's got to do, right? Which is all linked to his right? Yeah. So he's set it all up in this thing, and he said, next thing, they're having to, they've shoved it on, which is supposed to give him a flush. They've sent for this, so they've had to send for nurses coming. It's flooding the blinking ward because it's not connected the bloody, it's not connected up right. So he's going, that's not all my water. He said he hasn't connected it up right. It's flicking flooded blinking ward. You can't blinking make it up. You can't make it up, can you? But this is serious, this is somebody's blinking health and everything. Yeah. So they haven't blinking wired it up right and it's flooding the bleeding ward. Listen, enough said.
Enough said. I really wish you wouldn't have opened it, but I'm just saying if he's come back to me. That's it. He's just corrected. Yeah, we got it. Bladder flush. That was it.
Yeah, that's it. Couldn't think of name. Thanks, mate. He's having a bladder flush. Can you imagine? So they're giving her a bladder flush. They think it's going in. He says, no, it's not going in me. He's all over it. He's all over it ward. It's madness, that place, I'm telling you.
Oh, dear. Let's move on to yesterday's game because first one of the season in a great league. Brilliant to be in the Manchester League Division 2. First game for the Shadow Squad. Another opportunity for you to look at some of the players, Brent, and a good positive run out for the first one. First competitive game.
Yeah. I mean, listen. I think I've just got to, because there were obviously you were filming and there were things going on social media in respect to the North West Counties League and the teams in the North West Counties. I've just got to say something here because I don't want people thinking that there's. Listen, when you play in the National League system, you have to meet grand grading criteria because of the problems we've had with the new build, which involves the ground grading criteria, right? Because of the issues which the season has come too soon for us.
Yeah.
We fail the ground gradings, right? We won't obviously, because we have nowhere for them to go for hospitality, which is a tick you've got to have. So we haven't got nowhere for people to go for hospitality. Equally, you've got to have toilets on your ground for ladies, not just gents. We have gents' toilets on the ground, not a problem, but we haven't got ladies' toilets on the ground, right? Which we will have because they're adjacent to the clubhouse, on the outside of the clubhouse. Haven't been completed yet. So again, we failed on the ground grading on that situation. Equally, because there's ongoing work going on, which is now we're now getting to the final furlong. You know, as you've seen the bars.
Yeah.
You know, people who turned up yesterday saw that the bar's in place, and you know, and I've got to give Jake Nixon some mountain. I've got to give him a load of credit here, because the bar will look fantastic when it's all fully completed. And no pressure. He's been put under pressure with that, because I said this is a focal point of the club and it needs to be right. And from what I'm seeing, it is right. You know, no pressure. The lad's done absolutely fantastic. But don't be putting any more noughts on them bills just because I'm praising you. So the thing is, we didn't meet criteria. We don't meet the ground grading, and because of doing work, we couldn't let spectators on the ground, so we can't let people in. So we fail on every angle at the minute, right? But with the Manchester League, right, the pitch, there was nothing wrong with the pitch or anything, because it didn't involve the pitch. So in the Manchester League, and we checked with them, you know, when their fixtures came out, they don't have the same, because they're not in the National League system.
No.
And I'm sure I'm right in saying they're not even a feeder league into the National League system. So it's not a criteria. Yeah, so it's not a criteria that you have to have all this necessary, what you have to have for the National League system, right? So we could, there were no reason why we cannot play football on the pitch, right? Because other than that, they don't have. It's not a necessity to have a clubhouse. It's not a necessity to have hospitality. The only thing it has a necessity. It's not a necessity to have toilets. Only thing it is a necessity to have is toilets in your changing rooms, which we have anyway, right? So before people start jumping to conclusion, well, how come they play and they can play that? Why can't they play at North West game? That is the reason. We fail the ground grading at the minute, right? So coming back, so we obviously we could stage that game yesterday, right? But if you notice, you know, there were no, apart from parents of friends of the player that could come in and watch, it was behind, in theory, it was behind closed doors, right? So the fact of the matter is, it was the first game of the Manchester Football League. Our new opponents were Radcliffe AFC. And like when I spoke to the players before the game, I said, this is not a pre-season friendly. There's 3 points at stake now. So you've got to realise that, you know, I don't want no monkey likes happened when we've played Moorside underperforming. And I don't want the same kind of attitude we had in the first half against Elton Vale. You've got to go out in this game because they will be up for it, because obviously, you know, it's like any team, it's a new season. You know, you're playing in a league. You want to finish as high as you can, and that's what we did. But the pleasing thing again for me, I've looked and I've discussed this with my coaching team. I've looked at the players that we have in the squad, and when you think about it, no matter which shape that we decide to adopt when we start the season, and we're not going to be a team that's a one trick pony. We're going to shape the players into where we can alternate it, horses for courses, if you follow me.
Yeah.
But when you look at the squad of players and the type of players we've got, and I always say this, that sometimes, you know, like when we talked about the Chadderton game, when everybody were kind of like thinking what they'd seen at Chadderton and how good it were and everything, it's all about different personnel. Now, if you think about the squad and some of the players and a lot of the players, if we had adopted one certain system, I'm not going to say which one that is, but a lot of our good, talented players would probably be left out of that. They wouldn't be able to fit in because it doesn't allow it. You know, again, you've got to build your shape round your players.
Yeah.
You know, this is why you can't really in pro game, you know, like I'm going to go back to Man United here. Ruben Amorim, when he's inherited a lot of the players at Manchester United, and they were a car crash last year, a lot of them players couldn't adapt to the way he wanted to play, and so he had to try and coach them while games were going on into trying to adapt to the way that he wanted them to play.
I think that's why one of the things he said in the interviews after Brent was, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Those were his words.
Yeah, that's right. And so the simple fact is, of the matter, you know, what he would have done in an ideal world is, if he could have come in now in summer, in an ideal world, if he had the backing and they have the money, he would bring in his own players who would be targeting to be able to come in to play into the shape that he wants to adopt and he believes in.
Yeah.
Now, when I've analysed our old squad and looked at the different in the games we've played, I've come to the conclusion that we've got, you know, and I'm not going to start, because if I sit here now and say the players I'm talking about, it gives everything away, and I'm not giving nothing away. So I'm not going to, but I think you'll understand what I mean, you know, and you'll talk to me off air anyway. But we've got a lot of players that are very, very similar and can be exciting, and can make things happen, right? And I think in that, the way we set up, like against Chadderton, it would leave a lot of them players missing. You know, you won't be able to accommodate them, you know, a lot of them. Some of them you would, a couple of them, but you won't be able to. So I kind of decided again yesterday to change again, to have a look at another shape, but with a bit of a twist to it, if you will. And again, I'm not going to tell you on here what the twist is, because we're building up to a season. We don't want teams to be, you know, listening to this and then trying to find out how we're going to go, and then they're setting the stall out. So I kind of spoke to my coaches and basically discussed what we're thinking, with a bit of a twist in it. And I've got to say that, apart from the first probably 10 minutes till we settled down, because we were frantic at the beginning, I would say at the beginning, the first 10 minutes, we were probably second best.
Yeah.
And I can accept that to a point, because Radcliffe had come out. You know, you've got to look at it in two ways here. You know, no disrespect to anybody else in the Manchester League, but they're at a North West Counties League ground. You know, and you know the facility, you know, the setup and everything else, and it's not like playing on, you know, some
Recoré.
So that'd give them another 10%, but it's the first match of a new season, and they want to hit the ground running, and so they've come out the traps, and they've come and they're having a go. But apart from that first 10 minutes, once we settled into this game, I've got to say this, and bearing in mind the personnel we had on the pitch, and that's not being disrespectful. Don't remember. I mean, I'm happy to share with you the players that weren't there. Do you know what I mean? There's some good, tasty players that weren't there. Do you know what I mean? You know, Toby Wright's away on holiday. Conor Morris is away on holiday.
Jamani wasn't there.
Jamani's got an hamstring issue. Carl Siddall's got an hamstring issue. Alex Mellor's injured.
Paul,
you know, Paul Shalobi. Well, Paul Shalobi played the night before in that league because they're opening the league's opening competition. They play a cup final as their opening. That sounds a bit daft. They play a cup final as to open a league season. Do you follow me? And Paul Shalobi was signed for Walshaw, right?
Yeah, so he played for them in that.
So he played for them, so he couldn't sign in that league for us. So that's why Paul Shalobi wasn't there, right? Mason Fallon, Joey Fallon, both injured. You know, so but basically, you know, so there were tasty players not around. There were other players that we didn't pick. Right. So from the players that we picked from and wanted to have a look at, I've got to say this, in the way that we, after the first 10 minutes, I thought overall that was the best overall team performance in all the pre-season games we've played. I thought the movement, their interaction, the talking, you know, let's talk at the back, right? Let's start. I mean, with new lads in at the back, like I'm going to talk one in particular. I mean, Dom's come in. He's no stranger to Dom Williams. He's no stranger to our club. He's not played for us before, but he's no stranger. He comes watching us. He's a big friend of Joy Fallon's, and he's played at Chariton and probably other clubs. You know, he's versatile in terms of he can play at right back or he can play at centre back. I mean, he slotted in there. I mean, we had an injury after the first few minutes where we lost an excellent player in Ty Williams. I mean, again, you don't realise just how hard these pitches are. I mean, he's gone up for a challenge, nothing in it, but he's come flying down
over the top of the forward,
and he's gone over and banged his head on the ground, which is rock solid. It's like banging your head on concrete. Yeah. So he's had to come off. We probably minor concussion because he didn't feel right. He wasn't right. So we didn't mess about. We took him off. We had to just readjust a little bit at the back. We brought Ben Langley in at right back and moved Don into centre back, and Don slotted him. I thought the defence as a unit did really, really well alongside Don, and I've been pleased with him. I don't know. I kind of understand this a little bit. We've got a lad playing. I've only seen we tried to sign him last year, and for some reason I don't know. He came training a few times and then decided and ended up at Landudno. I mean, why you go to somewhere like Landudno unless you're going bloody fishing is beyond me.
Got a good pier.
But he went to Landudno but he's come back to us, and you know, I watched him in yesterday's game and I was really impressed with him.
Tidy.
He was tidy. He was good. Max Leeson, and he was very, very good. And you know, his background, he were at Salford. Things didn't work out for him at Salford, and I understand that sometimes players can lose their mojo because of the kick in the bollocks that they've had when they get released from these clubs. Yeah, and it's up to us. There couldn't be any better club than Bacup for when that happens to a player. We just pick them up.
I agree,
and we just pick them up and sort them out. And he came in and he really, really impressed me yesterday. Really impressed me. I mean, he's talking to start with. You know, one of the things that we have not been happy with, but he was talking well. He was organising. He was reading situations. He did really, really well. I was well impressed with him. You know, and then Brady being Brady until He played at left back. He weren't playing at centre forward, but then scores 2 goals from left back position. This is because he was getting high up the pitch, and supporting, and scored 2 fantastic goals. Fantastic. This is the quality he's got. And then you look at the midfield that we had in yesterday, and again, they got a grip of it. We've got, some people wouldn't pick this midfield, but again, you've got an aggressor in Callum Hewitt. He's a competitor, and then you've got a technical good player in Michael Gervin. To me, that they complement each other. Providing they're on the game. And I thought once they got into it, they were on the game, and then you got in there as well. You got Ben Thompson. I thought Ben Thompson were excellent. Again, some of the balls that he were executing and putting into the box, quality. It's all about the quality. And then you look at Josh Walton, and one thing I said about Josh Walton, we all know. Listen, again, this is something else about having vision. And when Josh Walton played for me before, listen, as a person, as a player, as a person, Josh Walton is a lovely lad, right? Salt of the earth, top lad.
Absolutely.
Right? He even got involved when he were here before with our kids. He'd come out and he'd be coaching on a Sunday with our kids, right? But when he played for me before, he was always picked and playing as a defender, whether it be if you played a back four, he'd be right full back. If you played in a sweeper system, if you played in a wing back system, he'd be the wing back. Now, I always felt, looking at it, and from a coaching point of view, and this isn't being disrespectful, this is being honest, I always felt his defensive duties, he wasn't the best as a defender. He wasn't the best in one-to-one defending, and for me. But what I did see of him, and I've learnt this again, what I did see, that should never write a player off because of that situation. You've got to recognise a player's strengths, and his strength for me were always attacking. Yeah. When he was attacking and taking people on, he was effective, and he had good quality. He could deliver, and he had good quality. And so again, what you do as a manager, you see this, and you don't just dismiss him and think, well, he's a right back, and he's not in my team and all that. So when he wanted to come back, I told him straight when we had the conversation. I went, listen, Josh, you can come back, but I'm going to tell you now, I'm not going to even think about you putting you in defence. I mean, I'm not interested in what these other clubs have done with you, because because I've got better players.
I don't see you there.
I don't see you there. I don't see that in you. I see you higher up the pitch, but you've got some furious competition. Because even if we played the 4-2-3-1 formation, which is what we have been playing and do play, right? He's got competition when you think about the players that's up there. He's got Alex Mellor, he's got Carl Siddall, he's got Jack Hayward, just to name, and obviously he's competing against them, But I said, that's where I see you playing, and that's where I see you competing. That's where where I'd like to see you, because I think you're better. And obviously,
pre-season's proved that.
And then pre-season's proved it, because that's where we've played him. That's where we've looked at him. That's where we want him. And yesterday, I thought he might be frustrated. Probably will be frustrated, because there were opportunities for him. He were in good positions, and it's one of them, isn't it? Where sometimes the striker, are you in a better position than than one of the strikers? And one of the strikers which a striker does. You've got to be selfish sometimes. Takes it and then misses it or whatever, But in the main, he was there, and I thought his work rate yesterday.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I thought it was exceptional, and he was kind of grasping what Nigel and Alan had spoke to him about the interaction and in and out and the starting positions and everything. He grasped it straight away, and I thought, and I kind of finished my talk in the changing room with Josh because I felt that he deserved it, because in the past he's had so many knocks off me. Because listen, I'm that manager. I'm not going to listen. I don't give a shite, me. I'll just tell it as it is.
Yeah.
Right. I don't. I don't pussyfoot about it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. But I'll always tell the truth. And I'm not.
You deserve the recognition, you'll give it.
Yeah. And I'm not one of the teammates, because what happens is, as teammates, and I've seen it so many times, I can't understand why you're not in, mate. Because they go out drinking together and all that. Well, I can understand why they're not in, because they're not bloody performing. That's why they're not in, right? But that's what teammates are like. They just chit-chat to each other and, chat shit half the time. Just concentrate on yourself, and get yourself in. But Josh, like I said, he's been knocked before by me openly, and I felt he just needed that accolade yesterday, because I thought his work rate and everything was awesome, and I thought his quality was. And it's no surprise. I mean, the corner, Callum Hewitt scores a goal. Yeah, great header, Callum. Right, but it all comes down to the quality that was delivered in, and he delivered the corner.
Put it on a sixpence.
Put it on a sixpence. It was quality. So I was pleased with that, and then the lads up front, again, always
tireless.
Always, again, he was busy. He was, Nigel's had one. Yeah, Nigel's had one-to-ones with him in training, where he's like, because don't forget, when I've been on here the last few weeks, I've talked about strung out like a three, like a washing line. Again, I'm being honest. I'm not naming names. I'll be honest. Josh Walton has been one of them, and so has Ollie's been one of them. That doesn't take away that what they're good at, But they have been strung out like a washing line. But at the end of the day, the coaches are there to coach them and get them into like not being strung out like a washing line. And to be honest, and Nigel touched on it yesterday, within 3 training sessions, Ollie's now grasped it about how he drops in, creates a space, and moves out, and and interchanging, and he's got that in his game now, and long may that continue. And sometimes he gets frustrated because he gets in good opportunities and he misses them. But it's not. I keep saying it, and I heard Josh saying it when he came in yesterday. He was gutted. They're all gutted that they're missing chances. Now, I turn around and say, it's not all about scoring as a striker. How many strikers do you know that if they come off the pitch and they've scored, they're over the moon? But for a blinking 75, 80 minutes, they might be a bag of shit.
Yeah.
You get me? Seriously.
Played no part in the game.
They've played no part in the game, and they've cropped up and they banged a goal, and they think they're good. And they think so it's not all about scoring. No. Scoring is important. You're never going to win a game of football without scoring. But it's other parts of your game. And as long as you're doing the other parts of your game, which your other parts of your game is your work rate, and making sure you use the ball intelligently when you've got the ball. Yeah, exactly. That's what it's about, and that's what I'm saying. This is why it wouldn't have mattered that Josh didn't score yesterday. That doesn't mean to say that Josh didn't contribute in that game yesterday. He contributed fantastically well in that game yesterday, right? Equally, Ollie, he's another one. He came off the other night. I missed too many chances. It's not all about that, Ollie. Yeah, it is. That was his reaction back to me. Yeah, it is. But it's not. Them will come. But they won't come if you're not in them areas. They won't come if you're not knocking on the door. It won't come if you're not, you eventually they will come, and they will continue to come.
Well, work rate's always been one of your major things. If they've got the work rate, players like Mellor in the past, they've been short on goals, but you always talk about his work rate.
Correct.
And that's what wins him the shirt.
Exactly. I'll argue with anybody about when we're talking about Alex Miller and they say he don't score enough goals. Listen, but his work rate, he's a manager's dream. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. They can all have their opinion. You know,
that's what we're starting to see from the other players now. Is that same commitment?
Correct. You know, and it was good to see, and I really, really, really stood there yesterday. Apart from the first 10 minutes, weren't happy with the goal we conceded. Let's have that right. But that came from a Mickey Mouse. Listen,
it's a new law.
Billy, if you're watching this now, because you need to take it in as well, there is a new law. There is a new law. You cannot have that ball in your hands for more than 8 seconds. If you have it in for 8 seconds, that ball is going to a corner. So the referee yesterday was exactly right to do what he did, right? And it was obviously it went to the corner. Now we've got to defend that corner. That was shambolic. You know, that took the bit of a shine off because we've got to do better. You know, if you watch the video, I've seen a player come out of his zone. Watch the video. I've seen a player come out of his zone. I'm not here to throw him under a bus, but he's come out of his zone. For some reason, he's gone down on his haunches. Like, why, I don't know. We asked the question at halftime. You know, I don't know. But then he's recovered back in. I get that. He's recovered, but then he's followed the ball. And then he's gone, and he's gone back onto the but he's left a gap on the post. You watch him, he's not on the post. Now, I've tried to I have spoke to Ryan Russell because he does the set pieces. And I wanted to get clarity of who should be on the near post. And he's told me who should be on the near post. I mean, but to me, on the near post is on the near post, not leaving a gap where there's enough gap for the player to shoot in and beat not one player, but beat two. Watch the video. He beats. There's a gap being left on the near post, and by that gap being left, he's beat the keeper. Now we've got to learn from that, because if that was we've got to learn from it, and the reason why we've got to learn from it is because it's a set piece, and we should be defending it properly. Now, the question I have to ask myself, or ask the coaches, right? Why is a player, when he's initially, he's come out, he's gone. You have to. We seen it happen. Both Ryan saw it. Me and Ryan saw the player. He went to go.
You can go to social media. It's on there.
Yeah, but we were watching it when it happened. Why is it? Hang on, I can't understand why he's gone to ground. He said he no way of winning the. We weren't talking about him winning an header. I just don't know why you're out there, because it didn't make sense. And I think it's 1.19 when you walk. If you stop it on 1.19, you see him go down, right? But then he recovers back in, because they haven't. The ball has been delivered in, but you look at the gap then between the near post and the player. The player's recovered back in, and when he's recovered back in, he's kind of followed the ball. And because the ball was like over here, he's followed it over here, and then he's followed it back to his near post. But by the time he's got across, it was too late, because to me, you stay on your near post. You stop that. That's just a conversation that we will have with the coaches, or I will have with the coaches, and that needs then addressing with the players, whoever's on them posts. But I just thought that was a poor goal to concede. But let's not take the shine off what I thought was a very, very good performance in terms of, listen, I'm not a spectator, and I'm stood there working as a manager, and you don't see same as spectators who were stood there, like there were a couple of them on the decking, who were watching. But personally, I would have thought that they would have enjoyed, apart from the first 10 minutes, what they saw, because they've seen 5 good goals, well executed, the movement were good, the creativity was good, and the finishing was good. Yeah. And the defending was good.
Good to see that energy that we saw in the opening first couple of games that we talked about. It was the same kind of intensity, wasn't it?
Yeah, Yeah, I was really impressed with it yesterday, to be honest. I think that's overall the best.
Well, back in action, you said the Shadow Squad have got another game on Wednesday night.
Yeah, they have, yeah.
Who are they up against on Wednesday? Do you know?
I'm not just sure who it is, but I should do.
I've got everything on here.
I'm not being disrespectful to him. Andy Pilling's back now, so that's his. But I'm not sure. But they have a game. They have a league game on Wednesday, which I think will be. I don't know if it's 7:15 kickoff. Again, it needs checking. It won't be anything like an 8 o'clock or anything.
I'll have a look and I'll put everything on the socials. What I wanted to pick up on, of course, counties started last week, Brent. We're going to follow it through the season and look at all the games that are playing in the counties. But I noticed we're one game in and we've got player movement already. And he's a former player of yours. 1 week.
It's madness. Listen, you don't want people like that. Listen, the player in question who you're talking about is a good lad. He's a good lad. Bobby Carter is a good lad. But he needs guiding. He's another one that thinks that scoring goals is the be-all and end-all. I mean, let's have it right about Bobby, right? He will score goals. He's proved it. He will score goals. He gets the chance, he will score goals, but he gives you nothing else.
Yeah.
It won't work. He's not a worker. You know, the ball comes to
kind of a one trick.
If the ball comes to him, he'll find the net and he will punish you.
He will.
You know, and he punished us last year. I think he were playing for Blackpool, and I think he scored.
Yeah.
So he will score. You know, there's no two ways. So it's no surprise that these clubs kind of want him because he will put the ball in the net. And goal scorers are, they're hard to come by, and I can't take that away from him. But he needs to get to a club and realise that it's not about Bobby Carter.
No,
he's got to get to a club and realise that he can't be about one player. We at Bacup Borough, we've got plenty, but it can't be about Toby Wright. It can't be about Conor Morris. It can't be about Kyle Tidall. Yeah. It can't be about them players. It can't be. There's other players in here now that's wanting to compete for that shirt. So if they want to keep it or want to have it, they've got to perform. It's like that at any level of football, wherever you are. You can't pick, players who stay in the team who are not really doing well usually happens because they've got nobody better or nobody as good to put in.
Yeah, no competition.
I understand that. It's non-league football. I get that. But if you're in a club where there's competition, right, you've got to accept that competition, and competition is healthy. Now, I can't get my head round why any player, never mind Bobby, would want to leave a club after game one. It's not the end of the world. If you've not got selected or you've coming off the bench or whatever, it doesn't matter because it's 9 months and a lot of things can happen in 9 months.
Well, the chances are with a player like Bobby, as you've had him and you said it before, once he does get in the team and he gets his head on, he ain't going to get dislodged. So what's his problem?
Exactly. I don't know. Listen, I'm not... You hear all sorts of rumours. The lads were talking yesterday, when we were having at the end of the game about it, and there's certain things being said. Apparently, he'd been told that he were going to be the number one. Well, if that's been the case, I'm sorry, but then you've got to look at the manager, because the manager's naive, because you wouldn't tell any player he's going to be the number one. How can you tell a player you're going to be my number one? Because that player, as much as he might have been a good player last year, banging goals in for fun, there's no guarantee. I don't care who it is, he's going to hit the ground running straight away in a new season. All sorts of things can go on. The lifestyle could have changed in that player. They could be having family issues. He could be having work issues. There might be things on his mind. So you can't. How can you promise just because you're playing on somebody's past, and say you'll be my main striker? if you're going to say that, you're cheating the player, in my opinion. I would never say that to my. We've chased a striker. I'll make no bones about this. Me and Ryan Russell sat down. We've had several chats with a striker, and he'll actually be playing against us for Glossop. Because he decided to go to Glossop because this is what happens with players. Because certain players, what happens is they go with the mates. So if there were about 3 or 4 players went from Chadderton to Glossop, former Chadderton players, so they all go as a package, as one, right? But even then, even when in all the conversations we had with this player, we never once made him think that he'd be the main man. Because we can't say be the main man. Because he could.
He's got to prove it.
He's got to prove it. We've gone to talk to him because we know he's a good striker, and he can finish, right? But there's no guarantee for anybody that they're gonna. The chances are, let's get one thing straight. If he'd have come to us, because what happens is, let's take Toby's normal circumstances, and as a club we had to cover this because of his job, because of what he does, because of when he can take his holidays. He always takes his holidays bang on the start of the season, which is critical. Yeah. So what do we do what do I do as a manager? Do I just sit there and rest on my laurels and put somebody Billy No Legs in, and think, well, Toby will be back in 3 weeks, and I'll put Toby in? That ain't going to happen. I'll put Billy No Legs in, and we're not doing anything. And then in 3 weeks' time, we start to hit the ground because Toby's back. Or do I go out and get a striker that will initially get the shirt because Toby's away? And let him lick the ground. And then when Toby comes back, right? Sorry, Toby, you went away on holiday. This lad's hit the ground running. What did you want me to do? Not put Billy No Legs in so you walk straight back in team. Yeah. That doesn't happen. So we've got a duty to do for the club and its supporters. So any manager that turns round to a player and says, you'll be my number one, I just think that is, if that's happened, and I don't know, this is only the comments I'm hearing yesterday, but if that's been said, well, the manager needs to have a long hard look at himself, because that is thinking absolute naivety. Yeah.
Well, I did see on social, I think he's gone to
Abbey.
Yeah, Abbey. So, wish him well. But like you said, cracking in front of goal, they will get you goals. But there's more to the package, isn't there, than just scoring goals?
Yeah, he will do. He's a good lad, is Bobby. He's a good lad, but I just think he just wants. He's impatient and he wants everything there and then. No, and he's not prepared to fight for that. Now, that isn't healthy. But if he feels he's been outdone by because somebody's told him he's going to be the number one and then ends up not being the number one, well, that's a bit. I just look at it from if that's been said to him, then I have to think that's naughty. a bit naughty and a bit naive.
Yeah, I want to pick up on we always have a little pick up on some other topics, and Wrexham is usually on our list of things. Of course, with Matty James being there, promotion last season, Championship football, the American owners. And it looks like Parkinson really means business, because he's just gone out and they've signed Conor Cody from Leicester. What a signing. That's a real message of intent, that, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, that's news to me. I mean, I haven't spoke. Linton and our Natalie and Linton are away at the minute. They're back today, I think. Well, they are back today. I know they're back today. So I can, and I haven't spoke to Mata or Reese. So I haven't been looking at. I've been that busy. I haven't really been watching the trail. So that's new. When you told me that now, that is kind of news. Yeah. That's the first I've heard about it all. But let me tell you, I mean, listen, I said it a few weeks ago on this show when I was going out on about Van Nistelrooy. I think Conor Cody could be I think he could be run away with himself in a changing room. I just think think he can be a bit of a I think when I think when Van Nistelrooy went in at Leicester, right, I just think there were big characters in that changing room who weren't going to, Jamie Vardy and Conor Cody, right? But let's take that politics away. So I think that Van Nistelrooy would have had an hard time going into it, bringing his, you know what I mean, with players, because he speaks his mind, Conor Cody, and I just get this impression. I might be wrong, he might not be, but as a player, and what I've watched him as a player on a football pitch, he does wear his heart on his sleeve. He gives 120%. He is a very, very good, a very, very good player. So to go to, to leave Leicester and go to Wrexham again, it just shows that they're not just going to go into that league to make the numbers up.
But it just shows as well. We mentioned it ages ago. You mentioned it probably about 2 years ago. The mentality and what Tommy Docherty used to say as well about bringing players. If you want to go to that level, you've got to bring players from the league above.
Yeah.
And Parkinson's got the same attitude and mantle.
And that's what he's done. Yeah, that's what he's done.
And that's where he's recruiting from.
It's great, but the clubs, I mean, listen,
they can back it, can't they?
It must be fantastic when you've got owners like they've got owners that, let's be honest, they're not egotistic. They stay in the background, but they know what they want and they're doing everything right. I mean, this is a club that's just spent, several weeks in Lincoln, Australia, in prep for new season in Australia. Your top clubs like Lincoln, Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea. You'll not get many championship clubs out doing that in Australia.
But it's not just about the football. You can see, and we're looking at their socials. It's the PR. The club is becoming bigger.
Yeah.
On a global scale.
Yeah, exactly.
And these American owners, the Hollywood boys, they seem to be loving the ride, don't they?
Well, Wrexham is. I remember. Listen, I was close to. I'm not as close with Brian
when
now.
Brian was in charge.
But Brian, it's, because of where we are and the jobs that we do. But I used to go down regular when Brian Flynn were in charge down at Wrexham. And even then you could see it. I mean, I've just got to mention it because it's just come back to me as well, because Joy Jones passed away, didn't they? And Joy were down there with Brian Flynn and Kevin Reeves. That were the team that were at Wrexham at the time. Because Brian
I think Joey and Kevin, Brent, you tell me if I'm wrong, they were player coaches. They were still playing.
Yeah, they were at the beginning. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so. When I used to go down to Wrexham, then you could feel and sense that but it's like every club, that happens. I mean, it's a shame it's happening now with Morecambe. They go on, but they'll come back.
Yeah.
They will come back. I mean, Wrexham have gone. They could have easily not come back, but they were. Luckily, I don't know if it's lucky or whatever it is, but they've got these, these film stars on the. That's got involved, and and they seem to be buying into it, and then taking it, taking them to another level, and I just think it's long may it continue.
Yeah. Because it's not just a case of they're not just throwing money at it, because they're business savvy and they work in the media and the Hollywood, and they've got connections. It's all networking. They've been creating revenue and money from the likes of doing the TV documentaries and making money that way. So there's actually money flowing into the club, not just flowing out of the club.
No, that's right. They're ticking all the boxes. They've got it right. They've got it right. But it helps, doesn't it? I mean, let's be honest.
The face.
Yeah. It helps that they're behind it, right? The name. So I think if there were other people behind it doing exactly the same,
it won't have the same momentum.
It won't have the same effect.
No,
it's who they are. I think it's who they are, and
which was the same with Salford, wasn't it? And then the class of '92 that had momentum because of the lads who were involved. But as we've seen, it's not all plain sailing, is it?
No, well, the class of '92, yeah, exactly. It was exactly the same. But I just think that they went about it in a different way. And listen, I'm a man who, when I was watching them, I used to love watching Nicky Butt play because he was my kind of player. Paul Scholes is a Rolls Royce player. Do you know what I mean? Gary Neville, steady Eddie. Good, good players. Ryan Giggs, top drawer player. You know what I mean? But the thing were, running a football club, I just think that a lot of things that they've done in from the beginning, whether they've probably learnt now from the mistakes, but I think a lot of what they did at the beginning were kind of wrong in how they were doing it and interfering. It was obvious they're interfering. How can you be down on the training ground in the morning, you're training and over there that you're watching and you've got blinking Phil Neville shoving his oar in. Excuse me, you've got Phil Neville shoving his oar in, and then you've got somebody else shoving their oar in. I mean, if they ask you for advice, the coaches or the manager asks you for advice, that's a different ball game. But not to shove your oar in, and then when you watch that documentary and they're turning around and putting managers under pressure and saying, we're not getting benefit for our money, and it's all about us getting promotion, and they think that they can buy their way out of it. It doesn't. Football's not about that, and they've learned it. And then you've got blinking Graham Alexander in there who are doing really, really well. We'll never know what's gone on, and Chris Laquette, they've gone in there and they've done really. But then they've gone and then they're doing so well up at Bradford. It's chalk and cheese because they haven't got the big egos blinking over, telling them how to do things or what they have to do or disagreeing. This is what I mean about opinions.
Like Graham Alexander's not going to take that, is he?
No, is he heck? So that's the situation you're in. So if you've got, just because Gary Neville believes this and you should do it this way, doesn't mean to say the guy he's brought in wants to do it that way.
No.
And so just let him get on with it and see what happens. Well, in Graham Alexander and Chris Laquette, they were, they were doing all right. They were on the peripheral, and but we'll never know what has gone on because they're crafty, because they make you sign these confidentiality things where you'll not get
out otherwise.
Things like that. So it never comes to the fore
until about 20 years when they do a book.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, I've lost a bit of thingy with them at Salford because I just think what they did were, more and more you watch them documentaries, it weren't right. It were, and now they've had to settle down and realise, and now they've ended up with, people like that Lynn pulling out, because he's probably thought, well, enough's enough, and Gary's had to do in a lot of ways. He's got to save face because it's Gary's baby in a way, so he's had to save face. So he's lucky in a way that he can tap into like somebody like his best mate, which is David Beckham, because David Beckham's a blinking world icon.
Yeah.
So he can tap into him.
They've got the network with all the business and
then they've got the. Yeah, correct. 100%. That's what it all is. Networking and then convincing people that, and now they've
had to put the brakes on.
Yeah. Hopefully, and they've seen the light and they do kind of kick on. But I just don't. I don't like what they were about right from the beginning. In terms of, because I just don't think football works like that. You can proves it even at our level. Even at our level, you see clubs that that are throwing money at it, and they don't achieve what they've set out to achieve. So it's start all over again the season after. And if they don't achieve again what they set out to achieve, how long can they keep doing that to win, to get to where they want to be? There's only so much you can do. Otherwise, you're going to be blinking going under.
Yeah. Anything more to add, Brent, before we wrap up this show?
No, I think we've covered everything, Mr. Brown.
I think we have. I will see you Wednesday. I'll put everything on the socials, and enjoy your week.
Top man. See you later.